Chapter 451, Hearing the Lan You Song After 800 Years. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. 100 million pieces of spiritual crystals seemed to be a sky-high price, and it was enough to scare away many monks in the fish-dragon realm. However, in Zhang Yuochen's opinion, it was acceptable. The most important thing was that it was the mansion where the half-saint used to live. He must have had left behind some powerful defense strategy. How important was the defense strategy? When the Silver Sky mercenary group was destroyed, its importance was set in stone. If the defense strategy of the Silver Sky mercenary group was stronger and more powerful, how could the monks of the black market be able to break in? Sometimes, setting up a powerful defense strategy cost more than 100 million pieces of spiritual crystals. Moreover, the grass, trees, houses, posts, and soil of a place where the half-saint had lived for a long time would sanctify to a certain degree. Even drinking the spring water would prolong the life of an ordinary people. The so-called even the dog swaggers when its master wins favor, held some truth. Therefore, the former residence of the half-saint was definitely a sanctum that everyone wanted. It could only be bought at the auction house. Liu Yukai was able to buy the mansion of the half-saint at the price of 100 million pieces of the spiritual crystals. Maybe the other party sold it at a low price since he was part of the sword sanctum. "Let's go, take me to have a look," Zhang Yuochen said eagerly. Liu Yukai immediately took a carriage with Zhang Yuochen. They went out of the courier station of Martial Market, and walked toward the Avenue of Kings not far from the Saint Academy. While the carriage moved forward, Liu Yukai said, "The street of the Avenue of King has a total length of 34,000 meters. On the either side of the street, there are a total of 432 mansions. The owners of the mansions are either half-saints or the senior personnel of the powerful saint family. Don't even mention the black market heretics. Not even the disciples of the moon-worship demonic sect heresy would dare step into the Avenue of Kings." Since Liu Yukai was a presbyter of the Sword Sanctum who was in charge of the foreign affairs, he immediately found out that Zhang Yuochen was in danger when he was with the Silver Sky mercenary group. Zhang Yuochen closed his eyes and slowly took a deep breath. He showed an exhilarating expression and said, "What a thick heaven and earth spiritual chi." The street of the Avenue of Kings is indeed very unique, and it is really a holy land for practicing. Liu Yukai said with a smile, "Brother Zhang, have you ever heard that there is a holy meridian in the Saint Academy?" "Of course." Zhang Yuochen nodded and said, "It was said that there is a Saint Mountain in the depths of the Saint Academy. At the bottom of the Saint Mountain lies a holy meridian that has been deposited for 100 million years. It can release the holy chi. If the warriors breathe the holy chi and practice their skills, practicing for 1 year would equal to 10 years of hard work. It is a pity that only the half-saint in the Saint Academy can open up an abode of fairies and immortals in the holy mountains. The ordinary saint has no such treatment." The heaven and earth spiritual chi was the foundation of all cultivation. When the heaven and earth spiritual chi was condensed to a certain degree, it would become a spiritual vein full of the spiritual chi. The spiritual vein had been deposited under the ground for millions of years and was condensed by the pressure of the earth. When it was impacted by some special forces, it would turn into the holy meridian. The holy meridian could transform the heaven and earth spiritual chi into the holy chi. In the depths of the Saint Academy, there was such a holy meridian that had a history of more than 100 million years. Liu Yukai said with a smile, A branch of the Holy Meridian of the Saint Academy flows out from the Saint Academy, and passes through the underground floor of the street of the Avenue of Kings. Although there is no holy chi at the bottom of the street of the Avenue of Kings, there is very thick spiritual chi. So many of the powerful saint families let their outstanding disciples live in the residences on the street of the Avenue of Kings. Many people are fighting over such a sanctum. Zhang Yuochen was slightly interested. He asked curiously, "In that case, why does the owner of the half-saint mansion sell it at such a low price?" "A mansion like this would be sold for at least 500 million pieces of spiritual crystals at the auction house." Liu Yukai showed a strange smile and said, Ask the owner of the half-saint mansion yourself when you meet her. You will know then. Zhang Rukan always felt that there was something more in Liu Kai's words. Things might not be so simple. He wondered what kind of person the owner of the half-saint mansion was. The street of the Avenue of Kings was very busy and it was full of people and carriages. There were countless warriors who traveled through the road. The carriage stopped outside a magnificent vermilion mansion. Stone killins were standing on both sides of the gate. The killins were not made of stone, but they were the real killin stone beasts. They were alive and savage beasts of the 4th level of the superior class. The body of the killin stone beasts was 7 meters tall. Their bodies were as hard as iron. The killin blood flowed in their body. They were the original inhabitant of the Cloudstone primitive world. The army of the First Central Empire broke through the Cloudstone primitive world and enslaved a large number of stone beasts. They brought them to the Kunlun's field and sold them at high prices for guarding mansions. 2 of them opened their eyes and bent their forefeet. They knelt on the ground and saluted to Liu Kai, Zhang Yuochen, and Ni Honglu. They spoke in human language. "Welcome, distinguished guests." Liu Kai smiled and said, "Brother Zhang, the 2 Killin's stone beasts are at the 4th level of the superior class and are capable to burst out an attack comparable to the warriors in the final state of the heaven realm. In the martial market, they at least cost 2,000,000 pieces of spiritual crystals to buy one. They are one of the free gifts for purchasing the mansions." Ni Honglu was quite impressed. He said, "So as long as we buy this mansion, Zhang Yuochen will be the owner of these 2 beasts from now on?" "Of course." "Mr. Ni, are you also interested in buying the former residence of the half-saint?" Liu Kai asked. Ni Honglu shook his head and said, "I can't afford it." Although Ni Honglu was a superior in the 6th change of the fish-dragon realm, and his strength was profound, he had used all his money to purchase the practicing resources. So he didn't have much left, let alone 100 million pieces of spiritual crystals. Even 10 million was not a feasible amount for him at that moment. Although he could not afford it, he knew clearly about the growing potential of the Killin stone beast. If they were given a lot of Killin blood, they could even grow into 5th level savage beasts. A 5th level savage beast was comparable to a monk in the fish dragon realm, and the price could exceed 10 million pieces of spiritual crystals. Zhang Yuochen looked at the 2 Killin stone beasts. He nodded his head and continued to follow Liu Kai and walked into the gates of the mansion. When he just entered the gate, a group of beautiful maids came out to meet him. All of them were dressed in clean white clothes. They didn't look like servants at all. Instead, they were like rich girls from royal families. 2 of them had reached the Earth realm. "Welcome, distinguished guests." The maids bowed. They were especially respectful to Zhang Yuochen. It was because that Zhang Yuochen might be their master in the future. "Rise, all of you," Liu Kai said with a smile. This mansion was very large. It not only had an artificial mountain that was several hundred meters tall, but also small lakes, a beech forest, a bamboo forest, and a pine forest. The further you walked inside, the more quiet and peaceful it got. Zhang Yuochen paused outside the orchid valley and pointed to a certain direction in the void space with his 5 fingers. Swoosh! Suddenly, a layer of white light screen appeared in front of Zhang Yuochen's fingers. One could see with one's naked eyes that streaks of inscription of array flowed on the light screen. Zhang Yuochen deliberately activated the array in the mansion. He wanted to test the intensity of the array. What a powerful defense array. It should be a 6th level array. Moreover, there is saint power left by half-saint, which is enough to fend off the full attack of the half-saint. Zhang Yuochen was amazed. He said, "The defensive array is worth more than 100 million pieces of spiritual crystals. Who is exactly the owner of this mansion? How can he be willing to sell it at a low price as 100 million pieces of spiritual crystals?" When Zhang Yuochen was puzzled, a melodious flute sound came from the bamboo forest in the distance. The flute sound was beautiful. It was like the sound of nature coming from above the 9 heavens. Phff. The breeze stirred the bamboo leaves, which letting out unique rhythmic sound. It echoed each other with the flute sound. Hearing this flute sound, Zhang Yuochen immediately froze and stopped breathing. He seemed to be petrified. His eyelids kept twitching. Many thoughts emerged in his mind. The Lan You Song? But how? At this moment, a beautiful girl's face appeared in Zhang Yuochen's mind. That was his cousin, Kong Lanyu, 800 years ago. Cousin, why do you always only practice your sword skill every day? Can you play with me? A young girl with a pair of beautiful peacock wings giggled. She held the dress with one hand and crouched down by the creek. She used another hand to scoop up the water and splash it on Zhang Yuochen. Zhang Yuochen took back his sword and shook his head. He said, Lanyu, you are so playful and don't work hard. How will you lead the half-peacock human to the Prosperity Avenue? Kong Lanyu stuck out of her tongue and put her hands on her hips. She laughed. You are here and you can protect me. Please don't practice the sword anymore and play with me for a while. Just for a few minutes, okay? No, I have a bet with Sister Kai Yao. I must succeed in practicing the 9-yang sword earlier than she does. Zhang Yuochen said seriously. You only think of your sister Kai Yao all the time and never think about me. I don't like you anymore. Woo woo. Kong Lanyu sat on the floor and was very upset. She rubbed her eyes with both hands and began to cry. Zhang Yuochen sighed and looked at a green bamboo that was not far away. He swung the sword and 2 streaks of sword chi flew out. They chopped the green bamboo into 3 sections. He grabbed one of the bamboo tubes and held it in his hand. He knocked it on Kong Lanxuan's head and said, Lanyu, stop. I'll play a song for you, okay? Hee, I lied to you, I wasn't crying. What kind of song will you play for me? Kong Lanyu laughed and made a funny face. She immediately grabbed Zhang Yuochen by his arm and stayed close to him. She opened her round eyes and asked curiously. Zhang Yuochen also smiled and put the bamboo tube on his lips. He said, I wrote this Lan You song especially for you. Wow, cousin, you know how to play a vertical flute? Kong Lanyu was surprised. Nonsense. Of course, I do. We even take the same music class. It's just that you fall asleep every time in class, Zhang Yuochen said. After a long while, Zhang Yuochen shook his head and woke himself up from his memories. He was full of emotion as if he just had a dream. He never thought that after 800 years he could still hear the Lan You song. Who on earth could it be?